Alrighty guys, Luke here again from Australian Off-Road. So now I'm just going to show you in these actual seating compartments what's hidden underneath. So firstly again we'll start on the driver's side. So backrest off separately. We'll lift the actual seat up itself, which is just velcroed down. We'll see the table in the top of the compartment, which I've just outlined, that's for storage reasons. So in terms for this, we're just going to lift this out of the way for the minute. And then we're going to have a look under here and start to see all the technical side that's hidden underneath and just outline a few things to look out for and what you mainly will come in this area for. So first thing I'm going to point out here is the two taps on the back wall. So these two taps are actually your actuating valves for whether you've got your front tank incorporated or your rear tank. So the way we've got this set up at the minute, the front tank's engaged here, which is the way that I tell most of my customers to operate to begin with. Being that a lot of your bigger storage areas on the Quantum are forward of the axle, it's always good to use that front water tank first just to alleviate some of that big bulk of weight initially. And obviously this is keeping weight in the rear tank, which in turn is trying to counterlever that storage that you're going to put into them bigger lockers. Water pump's just sitting in front here. So your water pump, 35 psi pump, this is also what you're working with when you're using your creek draw, which is down on the front tank, which I think Daryl's done a video on already, just showing you how to operate that. Please take into account with this river access, you've got to have your front tank engaged if you're going to use that feature. Obviously the plumbing, the way it's designed on the outside is it's running off that front tank, so you can't have your rear tank engaged in here and then try and draw through that front tank access. So a water pump we've outlined, you've got your water filters here, so nice and easy to access. The bracket on this is actually removable, so you can loosen these two bolts up and lift this housing up. We give you the removal tool for these, so you can easily spin them cartridges out and change your filters if you're on the road if needed. There is an isolation tap just down here on the Quantums. Now, being that obviously all our trailers are custom made, these may slightly change position, done differently slightly with builders, but this is the isolation valve here which shuts the water off to your hot water system. So for instance, if your hot water system fails, initially you wouldn't turn your water pump on because every time you do you're going to have a leak. So with this just isolates that out of the equation, allows you to operate everything as normal, you just won't have hot water. Another thing to outline down here is this little yellow tap that we've got fixed into the base of the floor. So that is actually a dump valve for the hot water system. So if you want to drain the water out of that system, you flick this lever vertical and then the water will actually drop through the bottom side of the trailer. Diesel heaters down here as well, so you can see the little Webasto heater. Nice and easy, that's controlled off the dial down in your control panel, which we've already touched on. But the unit itself, that's where it's actually situated. The 14 litre Truma hot water system's in the corner. Don't really need to do much on that side of it. It has got a pressure release valve, but obviously that actuates itself. So again, you don't really need to do too much. So the main thing that you're going to come in this area would be for either water filters if you're inspecting or replacing, and obviously your taps would be the main thing that I would be saying you'd be coming in this area for. Once you've run out of your front tank, you will naturally switch to your rear tank. Just take into account, depending on if you're looking at certain options with water tanks, the standard system, the toilet will run off the rear tank. You don't have to engage anything for that, that's the way it's already set up. So hopefully that helps you. We'll move on over to the passenger side and just have a look at the batteries now as well. Alrighty, sticking with the Quantum, moving over to the passenger side. So under this side, underneath your smaller seat, is all your electrics. So when I say electrics, I'm talking chargers, batteries, circuit boards, all that side of it. So it does sound a bit technical, and for some people it's a bit overwhelming. The good thing is you shouldn't have to come into this area too often. A lot of one in here kind of maintains itself, or if you do have a major issue, that's where we'd be saying call us and we'll try and talk you through it obviously. But just a few things just so people do know what they're looking for in here. So a big unit at the back saying power core is your new FinScan unit, so that's the 30 amp charger that's built into that. Down to the side of this, the nucleus block is actually where the switching is. So with the FinScan, one of the good features is you can control all your components, or a number of your components, through the actual system, where you switch it through the little controller on the side. This is where the switching takes place. So there's a few fuses in there Obviously you can access that if needed, but for this side of it we're just going to give you an overview of what it is. So charger, fuse board, switching side. You can see these 3 batteries in here. So this particular customer's opted for 3 100 amp lithiums. These are all linked in parallel the way we do our battery systems. So the 3 batteries, you've got a smaller fuse board down here, which is, as I call it, the 24-hour fuse board. So anything that's not controlled through the fin scan and requires basically permanent power, that's where you'll find these items. Now these are all labelled for you, so they've all got little labels on top. But this will be things like the toilet itself. Obviously during the night you don't want to have to turn the system on to just use the toilet. So this is going to be your toilet, your night light switch for instance, which is just situated down here. So again, if your main system isn't turned on, you can still turn that night light on outside of the fin scan. So items that are outside of that, that's what we class as the 24-hour. You can see up here we've got a little power point which has got a plugged in point. So this is actually for the power cord charger. So rather than hardwiring it in, we do have it plugged so you can individually isolate it or unplug it for replacement purposes. Down here we've got the circuit breakers, which these are for your 240 in your inverter side. Now if Wendy just spins across to the front, you'll see there's a spin off hatch on the front of this module. Now when you spin this off, you've got your 240 in your inverter circuit breakers. So same as you'd see in household. These are common items for actually flicking off. So when you're on corrugations, rough road, things like that, this is why we design the spin off hatch, so you're not having to constantly lift that seat off to get into that. So spin the hatch off, flick them back on. That'd be the first thing you'd look for if you have any issues or you notice anything's not right with 240 or inverter. So not charging, power points, no outputs. This will be the first thing you'll look for. So we'll put this back on, and then on top of this one there's a mega fuse on top of this, which is actually for the inverter itself. So that's depending on your inverter, that changes. It's either a 150 amp fuse or it's a 250, sorry, 150 or a 250. So quite a big fuse there. That's all you're looking for here. And then hard to see on this one, but down in the bottom with the little red cover over it, there's a 40 amp fuse, and that is normally for your charger. So one for your charger, one for your inverter. The rest of your fuses are going to be for your little components like your radios and things like that. But as I say, everything now is incorporated between the fuse boards. So hopefully that gives you a bit of an idea. It does look a bit overwhelming. There's a hell of a lot in there now, especially with the newer systems. But everything is accessible, everything can be maintained.